So, to open together, I wanted to take a moment of silence first before intentionally stepping in. And just this moment of silence here for those in Maine, where one of the most recent shootings in our country has taken place, and the Israeli and Palestine conflict, and Russia, Ukraine, those who are still recovering from fires and damage in Hawaii. And any other of the other beings in our world, maybe those that might be close to your own heart, maybe yourself that's navigating through such challenge right now. Really just taking this moment to hold all beings, yourself included, on this planetary body. Now taking a moment to intentionally step into this sacred space that we are creating by being here together today, and knowing that it also includes those who have the intention to be here as a part of this series, and that the field expands past distance, time, and to consciously land in for this first class here today. I want to lay into our time as we're landing in here a poem from Gina Puaro. She says, to the in-between spaces, may we have the capacity to stay with the tension of not knowing. May we welcome grief as friend and teacher and be penetrated by its depths. May we hold the many complexities of human emotions all at once. May we keep our fingers on the pulse of the subtlest layers. May we remember that our love was never, ever wasted. May we move, speak, act, listen, and live like a prayer. May we learn how to let things die and die well, including ourselves. And may we continue to love with the gentlest ferocity despite it all. Just letting that land, and as you are beginning to feel into the sense of ground beneath you, with you, if there's any way that you want to support it, if there's any way that you want to soften, to just allow yourself to receive a little more support. And letting Earth body have your mass. And bringing your attention to notice your breath. So without needing to change a thing, but just to witness. Inviting you to bring your fingertips to the spaces between your ribs. It could be any place, higher up or lower down. bringing your fingertips to the spaces between the ribs, the in between place of the bones of the rib basket. Acknowledging this in between place in you anatomically. Just noticing how the shape of this space changes as your body inhales and exhales. Breath being body's choice for life. Planetary body breathing you. And noticing how the tissues move in support of this call to life in, as, through you. And now you could begin to let your hands drop to any place of comfort and just returning to the witnessing of breath without the touch. Instead, letting the touch be the breath moving through. And then gently, gently letting your attention start to find its way to that space between where the inhale shifts towards exhale and where exhale shifts towards inhale. Just this gentle attention there. And just starting to notice if there's any possibility of a pause in between inhale and exhale. Not to force, just to notice it may or may not be there for you this moment of this day. But there's something when we can pay attention to that space in between or the pause if there is one, but at least just that shift in between. It then allows us to let the inhale really be led, informed, so that our body's only inhaling when breath leads to do so. And the same with exhaling, only when breath or whatever that mystery is that leads breath comes to a place of exhale. So this is one of the ways we can unknow or uncondition our rhythm of breath and instead discover what is spontaneous right now. And how much can I let go to the pace of being breathed? Opening to each this moment of what's needed for right now. Each exhale is a mini death, and each inhale a moment of being born. One cannot happen without the other. So letting your attention come to just softening into whole picture, whole experience of being. It can soften around focus on the breath. To just notice what's here now. We'll let ourselves gently begin to transition back towards the screen, not taking your time, maybe letting your eyes take in some space around the room and experience some depth into vision before landing back at the screen. Yeah, maybe stretching in any way that feels good. Any movement. And then when you do come back towards the screen, maybe shifting towards gallery view if you're not there yet. So we can have this moment of both seeing and being seen together with soft eyes, those that are live right now, here sharing this field of exploration with you. So in a moment, we'll just go popcorn style here. All of us on the screen this day have been together before, but maybe for the sake of everyone who will be joining, and just so we can hear you say the music of your name again, if you wouldn't mind saying that, or whatever you want to be called today. It doesn't have to be your given name. And maybe share where you're zooming in from, as well as if there's anything that is maybe percolating or stirring from our drop-in together today. Please, of course, always honor the needs and listen to the needs of your own body. Everything I'm inviting you into is an invitation. And if you need help with anything, maybe shifting something, wanting to do something differently, just even being curious about trying something different, please do ask. And also just ask that you also enter in with some curiosity and courage, maybe around some of those places of resistance and trying something new, if that comes up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mute and spotlight so we don't have
So,
the bounce.
Corey, could you
Yes.
say the names of the people who aren't here?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Lori. Let me go ahead and shift that. I want to see you all again. Okay, there we go. So actually, Jason Szymanski, who is in Denver, is joining us and not live with us today. And also, Carrie may be in and out. So Carrie is up in Pennsylvania, and she has an injury where she's needing some medical care and back and forth. So she can't be live with us today. She may be joining us next time. We'll see. So yes, thank you for asking, Lori. Okay. So this series, Unknowing. Unknowing. So this series began to percolate, inspire, re-inspire what's coming through me to share and open our field to maybe a month or two ago. And yeah, actually, let's not get into all of that. I just want to talk about unknowing specifically. So what do I mean by that? So what I mean is unknowing as a verb. So unknowing as a verb. So the actual intentional action of putting down knowing. the intentional action of putting down knowing. So my question to you all, to myself, is can we find the bravery to be in this practice of standing in the in-between, as Gina Puaro's poem names? To be in this place of discovery around not this, not that. So in in Hindu tradition, one of the inquiries and ways and paths they look at around finding God is this, it's a neti meditation. What it really means is not this, not that. So layer upon layer of putting down what I think I am. And of course, we know I is not just this body, but what I think I am, to discover what I am moment to moment. So God, love, life, whatever word you might use for that, unidentifiable perhaps. And this is a way to uncover what's ready to be birthed, a way to uncover new ways of being, a way to uncover self with a capital S. So especially given the current state of the world, for such a long time, really forever, probably. Yeah. How do we have the tough conversations that actually need to be had? How do we do that? How do we have the courage to step into something new? And how do we become willing to listen to others, to listen to alternate maybe forms of information or opinions or considerations? From what I can see and feel into, and what is opening through this being to share, is that is possible through the conscious act of unknowing. So this conscious act of setting our beliefs and even history down for some level of openness to now, to be with another's point of view. And that doesn't mean that you have to forget history or tradition or whatever it is that's important to you, but it does mean that you can invite in the bravery that says, for this moment, I'm willing to let go. For this moment, I'm willing to let go and listen to you, whoever that you is. So maybe that is another human that you're talking with. Maybe that is actually yourself, your own being, to see what's here now. Maybe that's with some other planetary being. Maybe that's with a group of people. But whoever that you is, that I'm willing to see you in your uniqueness right now. And at the very least, soften my assumptions about you. Soften my assumptions about me. That I'm willing. And it also means allowing for an opening around, and maybe an opening through is a better way to say it, the identity that I might otherwise cling to. And whether that's me, whether that's cultural, whether that's worldview. And at some levels, some moments, this can be easy, and many it is not. It can be scary. But as I see it, we cannot rely on old systems. We can't rely on status quo. We can't rely on governments, certainly, to do this for us, and to remember that governments so many times, so often, probably more than not, are not representative of the people. living in a country or place. We can't rely on our cultural norms, even our own norms that keep us safe and secure. We can't do that if we want to find our way out of this. I almost said this mess. And I also want to recognize that unknowingness, like that label of mess, because maybe it's actually all grace and perfect. But whatever the relationship is to this, we have to be willing to have that perspective and point of view too. But to find our way out of suffering. And that really needs to start with each other. It needs to start with ourselves. It's really where the change has to originate and it has to take hold. And if it does, then I would dare to say that there's actually no room at that point for dated systems and beliefs to have power if that can happen, if it can happen in the one-on-one, if it can happen inside, if it can happen between people, beings. And it takes bravery. It takes a willingness and also the willingness to die to ourselves. The idea of ourselves in subtle and in more profound ways, to actually be in this practice of unknowing. And that can call us into approaching life with humility. It's really what unknowing is approaching life, each other, ourselves with humility. And to really ask the question of who am I below the labels that I might assign consciously or unconsciously? What's possible for me? Who are you? Who are we below the labels? Because the divide happens in the labels and in the pain bodies. So who are we underneath that? And it doesn't mean I don't honor some of the pain body that's there. In fact, that can be the way through it, to transmute it. But I think this is part of our only way of really, it's part of a way to bridge the divide that is so clearly the many layers of divide in humanity. And the thing is that newness does not come from repeating the old. It just doesn't. There has to be a crack somewhere, some possibility of something else. And that's how evolution happens. That's how transmutation happens, is through those cracks of what we cling to. I guess the last thing I want to say here is about this piece anyway, is again, just to acknowledge how hard this can be at points, but I do think ease comes when we have that practice in peacetime within ourselves. And that's a part of what this series is about, is to offer ourselves to be in practice in the dive with unknowing, in a safe space where we're all exploring together. And then we can take some of that practice into places where it might be more challenging. And just like the encouragement I'm going to give to feel into this inquiry of, particularly when in a challenging situation or hearing something challenging, being with something challenging, maybe a challenging point of view, to be with this inquiry of, okay, so what was actually being said and why? What's the why behind what you're saying? And to ask those questions of others and of yourself. So, what's actually being said, whether it's through words or action, and why right now? So then finally, I'm going to share the screen in a moment. As I was opening up to this series, and again, it's always so interesting and beautiful to me in a way. So I'd already chosen the theme and had already put it out as a possibility, and I was actually at the ocean. I was on a trip to deliver a van and at the ocean and sat down, and I brought my cards down to the ocean and some different pieces. And I brought this deck. It's the Souls Oracle deck. It's a deck that Susan Harper had gifted me at one point. I brought it down to the ocean and I sat and I asked and I, bowed down to ask about just guidance around what needed to come through around this topic. And this is the card that came. So I want to show you the card, and then also I'll read some of the meaning here. And I asked for just for everyone, whoever was going to join, asked for the field and sharing. Okay, not that. Okay, let's see. It looks like it didn't. Oh, I shared the wrong way. 1 second. Okay, let's share the right way, Corey. Oh gosh. What is happening? Oh, is this not going to let me share? It's saying I have to. Okay, Zoom. Please let me share Zoom. Oh, for heaven's sakes, it's not. Okay, so I'm going to let go of that right now, but I will hold up the card and I will send it to you after. So this is the card. And it's called the Explorer. And again, had already chosen this. I was already forming. So the quality is discovery, exploration, learning, emergence, and courage. So the questions are, what am I learning? What am I exploring in my life? What can I discover? And what is new in my life? So I will also send this to you all in a follow-up. The meaning here is, this card represents the growing edge. It is a condition of learning and discovery. It suggests that the subject of the reading is confronting or exploring, or at least open to something new. It is the presence of novelty, discovery, and newness. It is also the presence of the unknown. Not in a fearful way, but in an invitational way, inviting us to go beyond the familiar. It can also represent risk and willingness to dare. It is the courage to go off the beaten track, to leave what is known, and to strike off across the country where one has gone before, where no one has gone before. It is the power to engage with the status quo in a way that reveals new possibilities and potentials, and to open the door to new manifestation. And the incarnational meaning here, it says this card represents our power to move beyond the known and the familiar, to learn, to discover, to open to newness, to gain new perspectives. The explorer honors what is known but is not bound by it. He or she is willing to learn new things, to explore, and to face the unknown. This card represents our growing edge. It also represents the nature of incarnation as an expression of discovery and exploration. That incarnation is the growing edge of the soul. So just taking a moment to lay that into our field. Any places that might have some resonance for you.
Or would you read the last sentence? Incarnation as an expression.
Of the soul. So, or I'll read the full last sentence. It also represents the nature of incarnation as an expression of discovery and exploration. That incarnation is the growing edge of the soul. So, as a whole, really, the main invitation of this series is this invitation into really entering with some curiosity, is as true always with our continuum series, but particularly suspending, even if it's just for this time, as many concepts and beliefs as you dare. And maybe suspending what you think your body, so your cultural body, flesh and skin and bone, your planetary body being, your cosmic body being, maybe suspending some beliefs about what that is, or why it's here, or what's possible for it to do, for life to do, so that we can be in this cutting edge, this growing edge of inquiry together in this field that we're creating. And I know that the ripples of this field matter in the world. So to really not know our way into discovery, which of course I know you've heard me say this many times, is discovery. So to uncover. And when we do this within, who knows where it can go? Who knows? We don't know. Any questions, anything that wants to be voiced, anything in your own experience that you want to put in before we talk about the dive, particularly today? Anything that's percolating with any of you?